Welcome to the channel. I'm Dennis. Today we're going to try to get this Cub Cadet back to cutting grass. So I've been looking for a zero-turn lawnmower. We've got about 5 acres on the shop grounds that we maintain. We cut about 2 of them regularly, and in a previous video you saw our old tractor, which was a 38-inch riding lawnmower that we added a utility shelf to the back of. Well, that is probably about 20 years old, and the engine is starting to show its life, and it's really a little too small for the amount of grass that we've been cutting. I've been looking for quite a while on Facebook Marketplace for the right zero-turn motor, and this is it. The person selling the lawnmower stated that the motor was good. The only thing wrong was that the deck needed a lot of work. And when later I came to find out is that it took a hit right here, which made the deck drop. There is a adjustment piece that goes right there that is lost, so I have to order one of those. And it bent the spindle. Well, I don't know if it bent the spindle, but at least broke the spindle. So far, the mounting point there. So that's not too bad. But as you notice too, there's a lot of rust. And I haven't used the lawnmower yet to cut, but I noticed it collects a lot of water when it rains. It's rained quite a few times since I bought it, and that's why there's a lot of rust, especially these covers right here. When you're cutting grass, it catches a lot of the grass clippings, and it holds it, and that's keeps the moisture connected to it. So we're gonna have to do something about that. But first, I think we try to take care of the bent deck. So we have this corner of the deck bent, and with the wheel also bent. So what I think I'm going to do is try to use a jack and push it open. That's pretty exciting. Let's try again and see if we can spread it out some more, and we'll get it a little bit straighter this time. So I put a piece of board under here to make this jack more parallel to the ground, and then that will keep everything a little bit straighter and it won't bend out like it did last time.
And for the last little bit of bending, I used my grandfather's old pipe wrench to bend the deck the rest of the way straight.
So now looking at this front wheel here, it looks a little cockeyed compared to the back. So what we need to do is we'll take our pipe wrench again and bend it inward. That looks much better. Out straight. Let's take the covers off of the outside spindles so we can take a better look to see what's going on with the broken one. So you can see kind of right here how the grass just kind of collects under that cover, and then that's how it gets rotted out. So we definitely need to clean that up and repaint it. At least that'll help protect it for a little longer. And then I noticed that there's some bolts missing too. We'll have to fix that. This side's alright. Let's see, the middle one is a little loose. I think one of the bolts is missing, and one of them's loose, so that should be alright. But over here is the one that's broken. Let's take a look. I mean, they got ripped out. It's missing the bolt here. See the broken bracket right here. And then the deck is bent. So, probably need to remove that spindle, level the deck, pound it back into shape, and then see how we can mount the spindle back up. Maybe we can do it with the 3 screws. That back screw looks alright. So now we got the deck flipped over. Let's get the blade off, and then we can take a look at the spindle. Well, we got fishing line around the spindle. Hopefully there's not a hook on here. It's a worm. worming some weights. And we've got a split in the deck right here we're going to have to weld up. So that should be pretty easy. That's probably where our main issue is, right here. So let's get this bolt off and see if we can get the spindle taken off. Now before we start pounding on this, I'm going to put a block of wood underneath here to help protect some of the spindles on the other end. I don't want to impact the, since the ground is, the spindles are laying on top of the ground, I don't want to break them or anything like that. Definitely need to pressure wash this all before we get started. It's definitely workable. This is probably not necessary, but we'll go ahead and flip the deck over and put a few welds on the cracks on the other side just for insurance purposes, but the welds on top should be strong enough. But it never hurts to have a few more welds. So those weren't the prettiest welds I've ever done, but they are good enough to get the job done. So now let's get the pressure washer out, let's clean the bottom and top and get ready for paint. So I'm spraying on some of this LA's Totally Awesome cleaner. It works pretty well. I'm going to just spray it on and let it sit for a little bit. But you can see what my concern is. The reason it's rusting out is because when you spray when it rains, or even grass, gets all caught up here. And see it's puddling up, and that water has nowhere to drain. So that's how the rust starts to accumulate a little bit faster than normal. When you got grass that's wet that sits there, then it just keeps the moisture right next to that paint. So this is just a repair. We're not going to do a full restoration, but we're going to definitely paint it to help maybe protect it a little bit and just try to keep this covered as much as possible. So after spraying this and letting it sit for a few minutes, let's give it another wash. So it's the next morning. We've let everything dry. Last night I was researching getting new bolts for the spindles, and I found out that it is a, not rare, but not a common bolt. It's a 5/16 18 pitch thread, and it's 3/4 inch long. So I ordered some of those, but then when I was ordering that, a lot of different items came up on Amazon, and one of them was support rings for the spindles. So this is just stamped sheet metal, and I guess that there's been a lot of problems with, since there's very little metal to support the spindles, that a lot of people are having problems with bending and breaking. And this happened because of blunt force, but I'm sure over time in rust, the metal bending, that there's a whole industry of a ring that goes below here underneath that supports. It's 3/16 of a piece of steel, and it just makes this stronger. So I went ahead and bought that. That'll be coming another day. We've got plenty of work to do before then. So I was debating on whether to take the spindles out. So now I've decided, since I've got that kit, we're going to take all the other spindles out, and hopefully the screws will come out easily without breaking like the other ones did. So let's give that a try and see how they come out. So it looks like right here one of the bolts got sheared off, so it's good that we're taking the middle one off. So we're taking both 2 spindles off. We're going to try to take the third one off. Hopefully these will all come off nice and easy. So we're just going to go back and forth with them. I'm going to go ahead and spray some Kroll oil on here. So at first I'm just going to go back and forth with it. And I think I just broke it. There you go, that broke. Well, that sucks. Yeah, these are all going to suck, I think. Really don't know any other way to fix it. I think they're all going to break. That's the problem. Well, we're 4 for 4. They all broke off, so I don't know. Maybe what we'll do is we'll heat them up, see if that helps any. These bolts are just so cheap. They're not made to be taken off, and then they rust. And all right, let's try something else. So basically, we're going to heat this up, the bolts up. See if we can get them loose. I'm going to spray it with some Kroll, kind of quench it. Plus maybe it'll draw it down in there with the heat and the cold. Now you notice I'm not doing this other one. I had already taken that screw out because I wanted to use it to measure when I bought new ones. So that one came out pretty easily. I haven't tried these, so maybe these will come out just as easy. This one's moving, but I can't tell if it's moving because it's loose or if the bolt's about to snap. I think it's... Nope. Something just snapped. That one's not too bad. I think these two of them are gonna be salvageable. Well, we got one out. That's good. this 2 out. I'm gonna leave that in temporarily just to hold it so while we get this one out. I think this one still needs a little persuasion. Ah, broke. Dang it. Well, we got 2 out of the 3 out of this one. So as we get ready for paint, I just started taking grocery bags and covering up the big pulleys and anything I didn't want to get paint on, and then I used the blue painter's tape to cover up the smaller items.
So to make painting easier, I'm using rope and tying it to my deck above and using a taut line hitch. And then here I'm showing the 3 types of paint we're going to be using: primer, black for underneath, and the yellow for the top.
Now remember, this is a restoration, not a restoration, so we're not worrying about the peeling, the paint edges and all that. We're not sanding it. And if I can get this primer to work, let's see here. This is an old can. We're just trying to get it covered so that it doesn't rust in the future. So I got it hung up so I can get the front and the back one right after another and not have to worry about flipping it over. Speed things up a little bit. So everything's been primed that had exposed metal, so we'll let that sit for about 10 minutes and then it will be ready to put the top coat on. So now that the primer's dried after about 10 minutes, we're going to paint the bottom first with a black, and that's more just to protect the metal. It's not really for beauty or anything like that. But the reason I start at the bottom first is because any overspray, I want to cover that up with the top coat, which will be the yellow. So it gives a little bit cleaner look when you do the bottom first. So now that the bottom is thoroughly black, we're going to use a color matched Cub Cadet yellow for the top of the deck. So in the end, I ended up at about putting 3 coats of paint on there, including the primer, just to give it a nice solid protection from the water. We'll see how long that lasts. Now we'll just let that dry, and we'll move on to trying to get these screws out of the spindles. Well, it's been a few days since we took these spindles off the deck, and right after I took the spindles off, I wanted to do a few tests on see how the bolts were going to come out. Well, during that test on the bolts, one of our bits broke and an easy out broke. So 2 of these spindles are not usable, which I kind of figured, but I was trying to give it a try to see if we could save it. The 3rd spindle was okay, but since we were already going to have to get 2 new ones, I decided to get a complete new kit of 3 new spindles, which is not that bad. It was $80 for 3 new spindles, so we'll be installing that. But so we were waiting for that to come in, and also we were waiting for the rings, which we talked about earlier. These are the reinforcement rings that go underneath the deck to support the spindle and strengthen the deck, so all that force beyond that thin sheet metal. But I did notice in the Amazon listing that someone had made a comment that the screws that come with it were the wrong pitch, and I was just testing them out and I'm remembering that, and they're 5/16 with a 20-inch pitch, which the spindle that we got and what's on the machine is 5/16 by 18. So I wanted you to keep that in mind. You might need to order more screws if you're just doing the ring reinforcements. But since we are doing the spindle replacement also, it comes with new bolts, and the bolts are longer, and I think, we'll talk about that later, but I think that might help the rusting issue a little bit. And I'll show you the issue of the other ones and why they were not working. So before we get started, they do not come greased, so we're going to get some red and tacky grease and load them up, and it's easier to do while they're off the machine, and then we will install them. So we'll repeat that 3 times and we'll put the spindles back on. I did want to show on the old spindle, what holds the blade on is a triangular pattern, whereas on the new one, it is more of a star. So I don't know if that was from, this is a factory spindle, which I probably is. It doesn't have as many teeth, which the newer ones do, and it matches up the blades better. So I don't know if they're being cheap or if things have changed since then and it's upgraded. So this would have a lot more hold on the blades. And also, the spindles do not come with the nut to hold the blade down. So you either got to keep yours from your old spindle, or if you lose one, then make sure you purchase a new bolt to hold the blade in. So when installing a reinforcement ring, you want to make sure you install it on the underside of the deck, not on top, because if you put it on the top side of the deck, it will raise your spindle up, and that will also raise the blade up, and that might hit the deck itself. So to keep clearances all the same as factory, you want to install this ring on the bottom side. And hopefully we never have to take this spindle off again, but if we do, we are going to add our anti-seize onto the threads of the bolt to help keep from rusting in the future. So all the bolts are torqued down to hand tight, and now the recommended specs are 250 inch-pounds to 300 inch-pounds, which converts to about 21 foot-pounds, the 250. So anything, I'm going to use about 21, 22 foot-pounds of pressure. All right. That's back together. Let's do it 3 more times, or 2 more times. Well, that's it. Everything's torqued down. Let's get the blades on. We're getting close. So the torque spec for the blades is 70 to 90 foot-pounds. I did it in the middle. I'm at 80. So we'll see see how tight that goes. There you go. There's your 80. That's 80. All right. Let's get her back underneath and let's get her started. So I think we just need to get this front bar on, and then we need to get the back hooks, and we'll be getting close. Now this back clip here, let's see. Might be hard to see. Guess you just pull it out. Alright, there you go. Just had to get it positioned just right, I guess. It doesn't seem very secure, but that's how they designed it. Let's get the other side. Alright, we're on. Let's get the belt on now. Well, we've come a long way. This wasn't a, can we get the engine started? This was, can we get the deck started? And I think we're at a point now we can test it. I haven't tested the PTO yet, so this is gonna be the first time. So let's check it out. Well, I consider that a success. I got some tall grass, and this did it all right. I mean, it's not a bush hog, but it definitely held its own. A lot better than the other 38-inch lawnmower that I had. So I consider this project a success. Here's a little postscript. I just finished cutting the grass after I did the final shots of the build. And yeah, you can see how the deck just catches all that grass. And I can see how that can rust it out quickly if you let it wet grass sit there without. So I guess I'm gonna have to blow it out after every cut. So probably this deck's not the best design, but overall the machine cuts very well. So it definitely, if you just keep in mind and know how to take care of it, then it should do you pretty well. And before we go, I wanted to show you here. I guess you can see it in the middle one. As you can see on the spindle, you see how on the new one the screws go all the way up and stick up past the spindle base? Well, here's the original, and you got it like this. Here's where the screw bolts busted off, and so they're still in there. They're recessed into the hole. So what would happen is water would collect down in there and just stay there and rust. So that's what made this design part of it bad, because the bolts were too short. They are self-cutting threads, but they should have brought them all the way up. At least they'll help repel the water a little bit. I know some of the water would go down the threads, but at least it's better than having a bunch of water just sit in the cup of it. So these are better spindles, I guess, for replacement, and for 80 bucks for 3 of them, not bad. They work. So we'll just have to do a long-term test and see how it works. All right, happy cutting. And if you'd like to see more videos like the one that you just saw, you can check here and here. And remember the ABCs of making. Always be creating. Till next time.